Welcome to Harmony Hall of Fame podcast. So, Paul Campbell of Studio Orchestrations, welcome to Harmony Hall of Fame podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's a real pleasure. Thank you for joining us. Now, I'm going to start by embarrassing you. Okay. Now, I've been browsing through your website. And I can see you've been involved in some incredible projects. I mean, you've written and arranged music for Disney blockbusters, Netflix movies, and you've worked with incredible artists like John Wilson and David Bowie. I mean, the list of high quality work seems endless. But I'm quite interested to know, how did this life in music start for you? I mean, can you tell us a little bit about your early beginnings in music?
I guess some of my earliest musical memories were connected with my grandfather. He was a jazz pianist in the 50s and 60s in Belfast and around Northern Ireland. And a lot of my early musical influence comes from him. I remember when I was 4 years old, he would sit me down at the piano and he would make me do little simple exercises, but they were all kind of swing sort of jazz exercises. By the time I was growing up, he was also a church music director. The local church that we went to, he was the choir director and played the organ. And so a lot of my early musical influences came through church, really. And I guess having him as a role model was really just amazing. Another person that I met at the Royal College was John Wilson, who I would say is one of my other big musical influences and mentors, who has done a lot from what I do with my career now.
What happened when you left the Royal College of Music? How did your career develop when you left music college?
It was an interesting journey, I think, really, and you know this very well personally, Paul, that while I was a principal study trumpet player, at the same time I was studying orchestration and arranging, conducting as well. There were opportunities that were starting to appear as I was leaving college in terms of writing music and arranging and orchestrating music.
Yeah. So would you say that your career has developed basically through your kind of personal connections? Because you can't really apply for a job, can you, doing what you do? It's building up your connections and your reputation. Is that a fair comment?
It's a strange industry in the sense that, yeah, you don't apply for jobs. Well, you can. I always remember you used to say to me about a portfolio approach. That was your phrase that you used to use when I was learning with you, and that's actually entirely true. I think in terms of John Wilson's influence, what happened with that was I just asked him for an arranging lesson, and so I don't know if you remember the Donaldson room in the college library. We went down and I had written a chart, and he went through it and. I said to him, so what do I owe you for the lesson? Because I didn't expect to get a lesson for free. And he said, it's okay. He said, when you're good enough, you can come and work for me. So that was sort of a job offer in a sense, but not a firm. It's not like you're going into a 40-hour week. So I was arranging and orchestrating for him and for his orchestra and for the other projects that he did, and a lot of my skill set came from that and being kind of thrown into the deep end with that.
So just talk us now into Studio Orchestrations, because basically that's your projects, and I believe you've got a co-director, John Langley.
That's right. John Langley and I started Studio Orchestrations back in, I think it was 2011. I met John through another orchestra in London, which was connected with church, All Souls Orchestra, and he was doing similar things to me, but yet had a different client base and a different kind of emphasis. John came through the ranks as a music librarian. Yeah, met up with him and we started studio orchestrations then really to kind of bring together our skill set and also enable us to take on things where we need a team. So
Yeah.
there's the two of us at the front of the organization, and then we have other people who come and work for us freelance. It's been a great blessing to have been part of so many other people's creative journeys as part of that.
Well, you mentioned deadlines earlier in our conversation. Presumably, all your work is all about deadlines and probably some pretty scary deadlines too. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes, well, it tends to be, as you'll know from your work, Paul, music is certainly when it comes to film and television work and commercial work and session work and stuff, music tends to be the one of the last things that's done in the process. So,
Mm.
because when somebody goes to a place like Abbey Road Studios in London and is hiring an orchestra of 60 or 70 musicians, all of a sudden they're spending tens of thousands of pounds within a matter of hours, and so they have to kind of make sure that everything's in place before they do that. And so in terms of my work, often we're kind of working very very intensely if it's on a movie or a television project, and then it's done. And it's sort of it's a quite a strange work routine in that you can kind of you're sort of going so frantically at it, and then it just stops.
Yeah.
And it takes you a couple of days to kind of for your brain to sort of come back to what people would describe as normal life. But yeah, so yeah, it's not uncommon to be up against it. And it's also very, very common for me to be juggling sort of four or five things at the one time.
Super. And just briefly, tell me what it's like to go into that box at Abbey Road. You know, Abbey Road, the most famous studio in the world. It's where the Beatles were. I mean, just about every pop group, every major orchestra, every major composer in the last, what, 400 years probably has been. What's it like to be in control of the session in Abbey Road? It must be fantastic, isn't it?
Well, yes, I mean, you sort of feel the weight of it in a sense when you go through the doors and you see all the posters on the walls and all the people who have signed this and that. But I think what strikes me is that even when you're running a session in Abbey Road or in Air Studios in London, you're surrounded by people at the top of their game, and that's for me is just incredible. It's just an amazing joy. Not only the musicians, which are so quick to capture every nuance of what you need, but the engineering team and everything.
So can we just talk about the charity Harmony Action Through the Arts? So you're doing all this incredible work every single week. These projects are coming out. I mean, why did you get involved in a kind of startup charity? Because that when we first talked about it, that's what it was.
Well, I think the wonderful thing about Harmony Action Through the Arts is puts a direct sort of a finger on something which is absolutely true in that music brings people together.
No, that's really interesting, and of course we have both worked on Harmony Action Through the Arts song called Stand. What was your role in that? Can you give us an idea of what you had to do to make this project work?
Well, I was delighted to be brought on board as the producer of the track and also to be able to arrange and orchestrate the song. I think in the first instance, what I was provided with was the demo that Rebecca, the composer, had put together with Selena. There was a lot across the journey of the track that changed since then, but really it was an audio track. I had to then transcribe right on into music the vocal parts to begin with, and some sort of piano part that could be used in a rehearsal.
So you must think occasionally when you're arranging other people's music, oh, I wish I could just do this myself. It'd be a lot easier. I shouldn't ask you that.
Well, but sometimes I do think that. I didn't think that here. But what was interesting was that I had very helpful discussions with Rebecca along the way about how to make it. I mean, both of us wanted for it to encapsulate different musical cultures, which sort of reflects the vision of the charity as well. And I think that was one of the joys, was trying to come up with all of those ideas and to work through those with Rebecca.
When you get this work come in, okay, and you've got this piece of music in front of you, what's the creative process? How do you, well, in fact, tell us what you're given. Give us an idea of the bare bones of what you start with and what you have to end up with.
Well, it depends on the project. In terms of material, for instance, for concert use, what you'll often get is the singer wants to sing this song in this key, and the orchestra is this size. So you're given those boundaries, and for instance, to say, yeah, we want to make sure that it's about 3.5 minutes. So from that, in terms of a creative process, you're putting down I use Sibelius notation software, so that tends to be my kind of go-to. Sometimes I'll start things off in Logic and play around with some ideas. I think for me, when you're dealing with a song, as a first example, everything has to serve the song. It has to serve the melody, and has to serve the lyrics. And I really use those as my inspiration for what I'm going to write around it. So the orchestrator's job is to take that information and to put it on the page. It's not only just a creative job, but it's a figurehead who's over a certain part of the production is responsible overall for it. So we're very much cog in that machine, which hopefully it's going to enable it to go really smoothly. And I think the things that often are most appreciated and most useful in terms of the way we work is to just make sure that the details are taken care of for the players on the page, so that there's no questions, there's no delays, there's no wasting time. Yeah. And I think no matter whether you're in a concert performance or a concert rehearsal situation or in a recording session, what's really important is that nobody's time is wasted.
Have you got any words of advice that you were either given or that you wish you'd been given at the beginning of your career?
You'll know from my own journey at college, at one point, I want to be a trumpet player. That's all I wanted to do. I think as you follow a path, if you want to make a career from music, then you've got to be flexible and adaptable. And actually, the option, the career that I've ended up taking, I wouldn't have necessarily dreamed that it would have got me where it has so far. I'm very thankful for that. And I think anybody who's starting out, first of all, don't be afraid to try different things. Pay attention is what I want to say. Actually, if you pay attention each and every day and to each and every project that you're involved with, it's amazing what you'll learn. I never leave a session without having learnt something. Is the opportunity to get to connect with people, and music has a wonderful way of doing that.
No, that's a really profound and thoughtful answer to the question. Thank you for sharing that. So, Paul Campbell, Studio Orchestrations, thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolute pleasure, Paul. Take care.